Admiral Chun Wei-Lin stood in the command center of Terra Station, watching the stars through the huge glass windows. She had been doing this job for 20 years, but the view still made her feel small. Earth hung below like a blue marble, peaceful and quiet. It was hard to believe that this small planet controlled half the galaxy. The communication officer turned around in his chair. "Admiral, we're getting something strange from the outer rim sensors." Chun walked over to his station. "Lieutenant." Park looked worried, which was unusual. He had seen everything in his 10 years of service. "What kind of strange?" "It's a transmission, Very old format. The computer says it's using Imperial fleet codes from 300 years ago." Chun felt her stomach drop. The Imperial fleet codes were legendary. Every child in human space knew the story. Emperor Valerius had taken the greatest fleet in human history to the edge of the galaxy. 50,000 ships. The best soldiers, the smartest officers. They had gone to claim new worlds for humanity and had never come back. But they didn't need to come back. Everyone knew they were still out there, conquering planet after planet. The alien races feared them. The Zelkari paid tribute to empty space, hoping the Imperial fleet wouldn't notice their worlds. The Skarn, who loved war more than food, stayed quiet on their borders. Even the proud Kronos miners gave up whole star systems, claiming they were reserved for Imperial expansion. It was the greatest lie in galactic history, and it kept the peace. "Play the transmission," Chun said. Static filled the speakers. Then a voice came through, broken and hard to understand. "This is Captain Morrison. Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Glory. Fleet position ... coordinates follow. Emperor preserve. US ... double quotes, the transmission cut to numbers. Star charts. A location so far away that Chun had never heard of the sector. "How old is this?" she asked. Park checked his instruments. "The signal has been traveling for almost 300 years, Admiral. It left the source right around the time the Imperial fleet disappeared." Chun stared at the coordinates on the screen. Her mind was racing. If this was real, if this was actually from the Imperial fleet, then it changed everything. The message didn't sound like victory. Captain Morrison had sounded scared. "Who else has heard this?" she asked. "Just us, Mom." It came in on the Deep Space Emergency Channel. Very low power. Chun nodded. "Lock it down. Classification level black. Nobody talks about this without my permission." "Yes, Admiral." Chun walked back to the windows. Below her, Earth continued its slow turn. Billions of people lived down there, safe and happy because the galaxy believed in the Imperial fleet. If that belief died, everything would change. Alien races would realize that humanity was not as strong as they thought. The tribute would stop. The borders would be tested. Wars would start. Earth had a good military, but not good enough to fight everyone at once. She thought about Emperor Valerius. History said he was the greatest leader humanity had ever known. Brave, smart, and completely dedicated to protecting his people. Stories said he had taken the fleet to the edge of space to build an empire that would last forever. But what if the stories were wrong? Chun's personal communicator buzzed. "Admiral, this is General Harrison from Military Intelligence. I need to see you immediately." Chun's blood went cold. If Military Intelligence was calling, they had heard something. "I'll be right there." She took one last look at the coordinates on the screen. Whatever was out there had been waiting for 300 years. It could wait a little longer. General Harrison was a small man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had been in intelligence for 30 years and knew more secrets than anyone alive. When Chun entered his office, he was reading from a tablet. "Sit down, Admiral," he said without looking up. "We have a problem. The transmission among other things. Harrison set down the tablet. Our listening posts have been picking up chatter from the alien governments. The Zelkari are asking questions about Imperial fleet movements. The Skarn are testing our border defenses. Something has them nervous. Chun sat forward. Do they know about the transmission? Not yet. But they're starting to wonder why they haven't heard from the Imperial fleet in so long. The tribute payments are getting smaller. Some of the outer colonies are asking for proof that the fleet still exists. What kind of proof? Harrison smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. The kind we can't give them. They want to see ships. They want to talk to officers. They want evidence that the greatest fleet in human history is still out there protecting. Girth, Chun understood. The lie was getting harder to maintain. 300 years was a long time to keep a secret, especially one this big. There's more, Harrison said. He picked up another tablet. We've been studying the transmission you received. The voice patterns match Captain Morrison from the Eternal Glory. The ship codes are correct. The encryption is authentic. So it's real, it appears to be. Which means the Imperial fleet didn't just disappear. Something happened to them. Chun stood up and walked to Harrison's window. His office looked out over the city, not space. Millions of people were down there, living their lives. They trusted their government to keep them safe. What do you recommend? She asked. We have 3 options. First, we bury the transmission and pretend it never happened. Keep the lie going. As long as possible. And when the aliens figure out the truth, we deal with that when it happens. Maybe our technology will be better by then. Maybe we'll have more allies. Chun nodded. Second option? We tell the truth. Reveal that the Imperial fleet is gone, and has been gone for 300 years. Unite the human colonies and prepare for war. That would be a disaster. Probably. But at least we'd be ready for it. Harrison paused. The third option is the most dangerous. Tell me. We investigate. We send a ship to those coordinates and find out what really happened to the Imperial fleet. Maybe we can find evidence that they succeeded. Maybe we can find survivors. Maybe we can find something that helps us maintain the lie. Chun turned around. Or maybe we find something that makes everything worse. That's the risk. Chun thought about the transmission again. Captain Morrison had sounded desperate. Whatever had happened to the Imperial fleet, it wasn't good. But if they could find proof that the fleet had accomplished something, anything, it might be enough. If we send a ship, it has to be secret, she said. Small crew, people we trust completely. I agree. And it has to be someone with the authority to make decisions. If they find something that changes everything, we need someone there who can handle it. Chun realized what he was suggesting. You want me to go? I want someone I trust to go. Someone who understands what's at stake. Chun looked out the window again. Earth looked so peaceful from up here. It was easy to forget that peace was built on a lie. How long would it take to get there? 6 months if we use the fastest ship we have. Another 6 months back. A year away from Earth. A year where anything could happen. Harrison nodded. But if we find the truth, it might be worth it. Chun made her decision. The Imperial fleet had gone into the unknown to protect humanity. Now it was her turn. Set it up, she said. I'll need a good crew and the best ship you can give me. Already working on it. As Chun left Harrison's office, she wondered what Emperor Valerius would think of what they were about to do. The greatest lie in human history was about to be tested. She just hoped they were ready for whatever truth they found. The research vessel, Pandora's Gift, was not the biggest ship in the fleet, but it was fast and quiet. Chun had handpicked the crew herself. 12 people she trusted with her life and the future of humanity. Commander Sarah Torres was her second. In command. She had served with Chun for 8 years and never asked questions she didn't need answers to. Dr. James Wright was their science officer, a man who could solve problems others couldn't even understand. Chief Engineer Lisa Park was the younger sister of the communications officer who had first heard the transmission. She didn't know why they were really here. As the ship moved through hyperspace toward the unknown coordinates, Chun stood in her ready room reading reports from home. The news was not good. The Zelkari hegemony had stopped their tribute payments completely. Their ambassador claimed they needed to redirect resources for internal security. Chun knew what that really meant. They were building warships. The Skarn. Confederation was worse. 3 of their patrol fleets had crossed into human space in the past month. Each time, they claimed it was a navigation error. Each time, they stayed a little longer before leaving. Even the peaceful Andrashi were asking questions. Their trade representatives wanted to know when they could expect the next Imperial expansion phase. They had resources ready to offer the Imperial fleet, but they needed to know where to send them. Chun closed the reports and rubbed her eyes. The lie was falling apart faster than anyone had expected. Every day they spent traveling to the coordinates was another day the galaxy moved. Closer to war. Commander Torres knocked on her door. "Admiral, you should see this." Chun followed Torres to the bridge. Dr. Wright was at the science station, looking excited and worried at the same time. "We're picking up debris," Wright said. "Lots of it. The computer is having trouble identifying all the different types." The main screen showed a field of scattered objects floating in space. Some were clearly metal fragments. Others looked like they might have been ship parts once. All of it was old, very old. "How old?" Chun asked. 300 years, give or take. The radiation signatures match what we'd expect from weapons of that era. Chun felt her heart racing. This was the first real evidence they had found. "Can you identify what kinds of ships?" Wright worked at his console for several minutes. "Some of it is definitely human. I'm seeing fragments that match Imperial fleet. Construction patterns, but there's other stuff too. Alien materials I don't recognize." "The Imperial fleet fought someone," Torres said quietly. Chun nodded. That much was becoming clear. But fought who? And why was there no record of it? "Take us deeper into the debris field," Chun ordered. "But carefully. I want to know what happened here." As the Pandora's gift moved through the wreckage, the pieces of the puzzle began to come together. The debris was scattered across several star systems. Whatever battle had happened here, it had been huge. Wright found more evidence. Energy weapons signatures that didn't match any known technology. Hull materials that seemed almost impossible to damage. Most disturbing of all, entire sections of space that seemed somehow wrong, as if reality itself had been bent. "Admiral," Wright said during their 3rd day in the debris field, "I don't think the Imperial fleet won this battle." Chun had been thinking the same thing. The amount of human wreckage was staggering. Whole ships had been torn apart. The alien debris was much less damaged, as if their technology had been superior. "Keep looking," she said. "There has to be more." While her crew searched the debris fields, Chun thought about what was happening back home. The galaxy believed that the Imperial fleet was out here somewhere, conquering new worlds and expanding human power. Trade routes stayed open because alien merchants feared Imperial patrols. Border wars ended when one side claimed that they had received Imperial support. Even criminal organizations stayed small, afraid that the fleet might notice them. It was all built on the belief that humanity was stronger than it really was. That belief kept the peace, but it also kept humanity from growing. Why build a bigger military when the Imperial fleet was already out there? Why form new alliances when humanity was already the dominant power? Chun realized that the lie had made humanity weak. They had become dependent on a myth instead of building real strength. On the fourth day, they found something that changed everything. "Admiral," Torres called from the bridge, "we've got a signal. Very faint, but it's definitely artificial." Chun hurried to the bridge. The signal was coming from a small object drifting at the edge of the debris field. It looked like a message. "Buoy, the kind ships use to send information across long distances. Can we retrieve it?" Chun asked. Chief Engineer Park nodded. "It'll take some work, but yes. The thing is old and damaged, but the core seems intact. It took 6 hours to bring the buoy aboard, and another 12 to extract its data." When they finally succeeded, Chun gathered her senior staff in the conference room. "This is from Captain Elizabeth Morrison of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Glory," Wright announced. "The same officer who sent the transmission we received. The recording was damaged, but enough survived to tell the story." Captain Morrison appeared on the screen, her face streaked with blood and smoke visible behind her. "Personal log, Captain." Morrison, Day 14 of the engagement. "The fleet is scattered across 7 systems. We've lost contact with the Emperor's flagship. 60% of our ships are gone or disabled." The recording skipped, then continued. "The enemy isn't like anything we expected. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Maybe thousands of years. They don't seem to want our territory. They're testing us, seeing what we're capable of." Another skip. Morrison looked exhausted. Admiral Chun was right to worry about the Outer Rim. "These beings, these architects as they call themselves, they've been watching us for a long time. They decided we needed to be evaluated." Chun felt cold. Admiral Chun. That was her great-grandmother, one of the fleet's senior commanders. The recording continued. "The test is almost over. Most of the fleet is gone, but the Emperor has a plan. He's going to make sure Earth is protected, even if we can't come home." The recording ended there. The conference room was silent for a long moment. "Architects," Torres said finally. "That's what she called them." Wright nodded. "Beings with technology far beyond ours. They tested the Imperial fleet and destroyed it. But why?" Park asked. What was the point? Chun had a terrible feeling. She knew the answer. Dr. Wright scanned the debris field again. "Look for anything that doesn't match Imperial fleet or architect technology." Wright looked confused, but followed orders. An hour later, he came back with the results. "Admiral, you were right. There's a third type of debris out here. The computer can't identify it, but it's definitely artificial. Very advanced, but different from the architect technology." "How different?" "It looks like it was designed to fight the architects. And from the damage patterns, it actually succeeded in some cases." Chun understood now. The architects hadn't just tested humanity. They had tested everyone, and most species had failed. "The Imperial fleet wasn't the first," she said. "The architects have been doing this for a long time, testing species to see if they're worthy of something." "Worthy of what?" Torres asked. Chun didn't answer because she didn't know. But she was starting to understand why Emperor Valerius had never brought his fleet home. It wasn't because they were conquering the galaxy. It was because they couldn't. The fleet had found something too big for humanity to face alone. Something that required a different kind of strength. As the Pandora's gift continued deeper into the debris field, Chun began to see the Emperor's real plan. He hadn't sent his fleet to conquer. He had sent them to buy time. The lie about the Imperial fleet wasn't just keeping the peace. It was keeping humanity alive long enough to become something more. But time was running out. The aliens were getting suspicious. The tribute was stopping. Wars were starting, and somewhere out in the dark, the architects were still watching. Chun made a decision that would change everything. Instead of turning back, she ordered the ship to continue toward the Original coordinates. If Captain Morrison's message buoy was here, then the source of the transmission was still ahead of them. Whatever the Imperial fleet had found out there, whatever Emperor Valerius had planned, she was going to find it. The truth was worth the risk, even if it destroyed everything humanity had built on lies. The source of the transmission was a dead star system. 3 planets orbited a dying red giant. Their surfaces burned black and lifeless. But the Pandora's Gift sensors showed something impossible. Massive structures built into the planets themselves. "Those aren't natural," Dr. Wright said, staring at his readings. "Someone built cities inside those worlds. Cities the size of continents." Chun studied the tactical display. The structures were huge, but they were also clearly abandoned. Number. Energy readings. No communications. Just the slow decay of something that had once been magnificent. "Take us to the 3rd planet," Chun ordered. The transmission came from there. As they got closer, the scale became even more incredible. The entire planet had been hollowed out and turned into a massive space station. Docking bays large enough for fleets. Manufacturing centers that could build thousands of ships at once. Living quarters for billions of beings. And scattered around it, the wreckage of the Imperial fleet. Chun recognized the designs from history books. The massive dreadnoughts that had been the pride of humanity. The smaller destroyers and cruisers. That had formed the backbone of the fleet. All of them broken, drifting in the shadow of the alien megastructure. "Life signs," Torres reported suddenly. "Very faint, but there's something alive in that structure." Chun felt her pulse quicken. After 300 years, could there actually be survivors? "Take us in carefully," she said. "I want to know what we're dealing with before we commit to anything." The docking bay they chose was large enough to hold 100 ships like theirs. As they landed, Shun noticed that the artificial gravity was still working. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across empty corridors that stretched beyond sight. Chun took a small team to explore. Torres, Wright, Chief Park, and 2 security officers. They left the rest of the crew on the ship, with strict orders to leave immediately if anything went wrong. The corridors were built for beings much larger than humans. The ceilings were 30 feet high. The doorways were broad enough for vehicles to pass through, but the architecture felt familiar somehow, as if it had been designed by minds that thought like humans did. "Admiral," Wright said, checking his scanner, "I'm reading atmosphere in the next section. Breathable for humans." "How is that possible?" "I don't know. The life support systems should have failed centuries ago. They found the source of the life. Signs in what had once been a command center. Banks of alien computers lined the walls, most of them dark and silent. But in the center of the room, a single human figure sat in a chair that was too large for her. She looked old, older than anyone Chun had ever seen, but her eyes were bright and alert. When she saw them enter, she smiled. "I was wondering when someone would finally come," she said in a voice that was tired but strong. "I'm Captain Sarah Okafor, Imperial Fleet, 23rd Exploration Division." Chun stepped forward, hardly able to believe what she was seeing. "Captain Okafor, I'm Admiral Chun Wei-Lin, Terran Defense Corps. How are you alive?" Okafor gestured to the alien machinery around them, the architect's technology. "It's been keeping me alive, keeping this place functioning. I've been waiting for humanity to advance enough to find me." 300 years, Torres said quietly. 312 years, 4 months, 16 days. Okafor corrected. "I've been counting." Wright was scanning the room with his instruments. "Admiral, this is incredible. The technology here is beyond anything we've ever seen. The power source alone could supply Earth's entire energy needs for thousands of years." Okafor stood up slowly, her movements careful but steady. "Dr. Wright, isn't it?" You have questions about what happened here. Everyone does, Sean said. The official records say the Imperial fleet went to expand the Empire. But that's not what happened, is it? Okafor walked to one of the active computer displays. The screen showed star charts, but not like any Chun had seen before. These charts showed the entire galaxy, with different regions marked in various colors. The truth, Okafor said, is that we came here because we had no choice. Earth's deep. Space sensors had detected something moving toward human space. Something big. The Emperor decided to meet it head-on rather than wait for it to reach our colonies. She touched the screen, and the display changed to show a timeline. We found them here, the architects, being so old that they remember when the galaxy was young. They had been traveling from star to star for millions of years, testing the species they found. Testing them how? Chon asked. Combat, mostly. They would challenge a species' greatest military force. If the species showed promise, the architects would make contact and offer knowledge. If not, Okafor gestured to the empty stations around. Them. This was a Korvac base. They failed their test 2,000 years ago. Wright looked amazed. The Korvac were a legend. We found traces of their technology across the galaxy, but we never knew what happened to them. They fought bravely, Okafor said, but they fought alone. The architects valued individual strength above all else. The Korvac were powerful, but they couldn't work together when it mattered most. Sean was beginning to understand. And humanity? Okafor smiled. We surprised them. Our technology was inferior. Our ships were weaker. Our weapons were less advanced. By every measure, we should have been destroyed in the first engagement. But we weren't? Oh, we were losing badly. The architects destroyed 60% of our fleet in the first week. But then something happened that they hadn't seen before. Okafor walked to another display, this one showing battle recordings. Chun watched as human ships, clearly outmatched, began moving in coordinated patterns. When one ship was damaged, others moved to protect it. When ammunition ran low, ships shared resources. When commanders fell, their crews continued fighting. As units, we weren't stronger than the architects, Okafor explained. But we were something they hadn't encountered before. We were united, not just within our own species, but across different types of beings. Humans, artificial intelligences, even some alien volunteers who had joined the Imperial fleet. The recording showed something that made Chun's heart swell with pride. As the battle continued, the human formations became more complex. Ships began sacrificing themselves not for victory, but to protect others. Crews worked together in ways that the architects' superior technology couldn't counter. The architects stopped the battle on day 18, Okafor continued. Their leader, an entity that called itself the Prime Constructor, came aboard the Emperor's flagship personally. What did it want? To understand us. The architects had tested thousands of species over millions of years. They had seen courage, intelligence, determination, even nobility. But they had never seen a species that could truly work together for something greater than themselves. Okafor brought up a new display, this one showing a recording of the meeting. Emperor Valerius stood in his damaged bridge, facing something that barely looked real. The architect was tall, made of what seemed like living metal, with features that shifted constantly. Chun could hear the conversation, translated by the ship's computers. Your species intrigues us, human leader. You fight not for conquest, but for protection. You sacrifice not for glory, but for others. This is unusual. Emperor Valerius, covered in blood but standing straight, replied, We fight for our families, our friends, our future. If that makes us unusual, then I'm proud of it. You have passed our test. But passing is only the beginning. We offer you knowledge, technology, the secrets of species that came before you. But there is a price. Name. It. You must prove that your unity is real, that it can extend beyond your own species, that you can bring together not just humans, but all the thinking beings in this galaxy. The recording ended there. Okafor turned back to Chun. The Emperor accepted, she said. But he knew humanity wasn't ready. We were still too focused on conquest, too proud of our individual strength. So he made a different choice. He stayed here, Chun realized. He stayed to learn. The architects gave us access to their knowledge, their history, the records of every species they had tested. The Emperor spent 2 years studying it all, preparing humanity for what was coming. What was coming? Okafor's expression grew serious. The architects weren't the only ancient power in the galaxy. There were others, entities that saw younger species as threats to be eliminated rather than potential allies. The architects had been holding them back, but they were growing tired of the responsibility. Chun felt cold. They wanted humanity to take over. Not just humanity, all the species of this galaxy working together. The architects believed that if any group could unite the galaxy against what was coming, it would be us. But the Emperor never came back, Torres said. How could he unite the galaxy from here? Okafor smiled sadly. He couldn't. But he could create a legend that would buy humanity time to grow, time to learn, time to become worthy of the responsibility the architects wanted to give us. Chun understood now. The lie about the Imperial fleet wasn't just keeping the peace. It was preparing the galaxy for something much bigger. The architects left a message, Okafor continued. She activated one more display, this one showing a star chart with a countdown. They will return in 700 years to see what we have accomplished. If we have united the galaxy, if we have proven worthy of their legacy, they will. The journey back to human space took 6 months, but Chun felt like she was carrying the weight of centuries. Captain Okafor had chosen to come with them, finally leaving the architect station after 300 years of waiting. The data they carried contained the sum of knowledge from dozens of advanced civilizations, but it also contained a deadline that made Chun wake up in cold sweats. 700 years to unite a galaxy that had been divided by fear and mistrust for millennia. When they reached the edge of human space, the first message waiting for them made Chun's heart sink. Commander Torres read it aloud on the bridge. Zelkari fleet movements detected in Sector 7. Skarn raiders hit 3 colonies in the Outer Rim. Andrashi trade convoy refused passage through Kronos space, citing security concerns. Request immediate Imperial fleet intervention. It's getting worse, Torres said quietly. Chun nodded. Every day they had been gone, the lie had become harder to maintain. The aliens were testing human defenses, looking for proof that the Imperial fleet was real. When they found no evidence, they grew bolder. Dr. Wright looked up from his analysis station. Admiral, I've been studying the architect records. Captain, Okafor was right about the timeline. We have 700 years before they return, but that's not the real deadline. What do you mean? Wright brought up a display showing galactic star charts. According to the architect data, the entities they were holding back have been advancing steadily. Based on their historical rate of expansion, they'll reach the edge of our galaxy in approximately 800 years. So we have 100 years of buffer time, Chief Park said. Wright shook his head. No, the architects estimated it would take at least 50 years to unite the galaxy once we decided to try. And that assumes everything goes perfectly. Chun did the math in her head. They had 700 years to prepare, but they needed 50 years to execute the plan. That meant they had to make the decision soon, very soon. There's something else, Okafor said from her chair near the science station. The Emperor left specific instructions for this situation. He knew that eventually Someone would find this truth and have to decide what to do with it. She activated a personal datapad that she had carried from the architect's station. Emperor Valerius appeared as a hologram, older than Shun had ever seen him in the history books, but with eyes that burned with determination. "If you are seeing this message," the hologram said, "then humanity has reached a crossroads. The lie that has protected our species is failing, and the truth must be revealed. But the truth is dangerous. It will change everything." Chun felt like the Emperor was speaking directly to her across 3 centuries. "I have prepared 3 options for my successors," the hologram continued. "First, you can maintain the lie as long as possible. Use the knowledge we gained to quietly strengthen humanity and our allies. This is the safe path, but it may not. Give us enough time. Second, you can reveal everything immediately. Tell the galaxy about the architects, the coming threat, and humanity's role in uniting the stars. This is the honest path, but it may cause panic and division when we need unity most. Third, you can choose a middle way. Use the truth selectively, revealing only what is necessary to build the alliances we need. This is the difficult path, because it requires wisdom to know when to lie and when to tell the truth." The hologram paused, and Chun saw something in the Emperor's eyes that she recognized. The same burden she was feeling now. "I cannot make this choice for you," Emperor Valerius continued. "The future belongs to those who live in it. But I can offer you this advice. Humanity's greatest strength has never been our technology or our weapons. It has been our ability to inspire others to be better than they thought possible." The message ended, leaving Shun's crew in silence. "What do you think he meant by the middle way?" Torres asked. Captain Okafor answered. "He meant that sometimes the truth people need to hear isn't the same as the facts. The galaxy needs to unite, but they need a reason to do it that makes sense to them." Chun was beginning to understand. They couldn't tell everyone about the architects immediately. The alien species would never believe such an incredible story coming from humans, especially when it painted humanity as chosen leaders. But they couldn't maintain the old lie either, because it was already failing. They needed a new story, one that was true enough to be believable and inspiring enough to bring the galaxy together. "Dr. Wright," Chun said, "how much of the architect technology can we demonstrate?" Wright consulted his datapad. "Quite a bit, actually." Captain Okafor brought samples of their materials, energy storage systems, even some basic manufacturing techniques. Nothing that would give us overwhelming military superiority, but enough to prove we've made contact with advanced beings. And the historical records? Proof that other species failed the architect tests? Extensive records. We could show the fate of the Korvac, the Melari, the Vantak Empire. Dozens of civilizations that fell because they couldn't work together. Chun walked to the main view screen, where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the stars. Somewhere down there, billions of people were living their lives, trusting their leaders to keep them safe. In a few months, she would have to make a decision that would determine whether those people had a future. "I want options," she said to her crew. Full analysis of what happens if we choose each path. Political consequences, military implications, social effects, everything. For the next week, as the Pandora's gift traveled toward Earth, Chun's team worked around the clock. The results were sobering. Maintaining the lie was impossible. The alien species were already too suspicious, and their military buildup would eventually reach a point where they could challenge humanity directly. Within 50 years, there would be wars that humanity couldn't win. Revealing everything immediately was almost as bad. The alien species would see the story as human propaganda designed to make them accept human leadership. Some might believe it, but others would see it as an elaborate trick. The galaxy would split into factions, and the unity the architects wanted would be impossible. But the middle way offered hope. If they could present evidence of the threat without claiming special status for humanity, if they could make it seem like humanity had stumbled onto information that everyone needed to know, they might be able to build real alliances. We tell them the Imperial fleet found something, Torres suggested during one of their planning sessions. Not that we're chosen leaders, but that we discovered a common threat. We show them the architect records about other civilizations. Let them draw their own conclusions about what it means. And if they don't believe us? Chief Park asked. Captain Okafor spoke up. Then we show them the technology. The architects left us enough proof to convince anyone who looks at it objectively. Wright nodded. We could establish research stations in neutral space. Invite scientists from every species to study the evidence together. Make it a collaborative effort instead of a human announcement. Chun liked the idea, but she saw problems. That approach takes time. Years, maybe decades, to convince everyone. Do we have that long? The answer came in the form of another message from home. General Harrison's face appeared on the screen, and he looked tired and worried. Admiral Chun, the situation here is deteriorating rapidly. The Zelkari have formed an alliance with the Skarn. They're calling it a mutual defense pact, but our intelligence suggests they're planning coordinated strikes against human colonies. Chun's blood went cold. The two most militaristic species in the galaxy working together. If they attacked human space while it was divided and unprepared, the results would be catastrophic. There's more, Harrison continued. The Andrashi are demanding proof of Imperial fleet existence within the next 6 months, or they're withdrawing from all human trade agreements. The Kronos Collective is talking about reclaiming territory held under false pretenses. Even some human colonies are starting to ask questions. The message ended with a request for Chun to return immediately for emergency consultations. Chun gathered her senior staff in the conference room one last time before they reached Earth. We're out of time, she said. The galaxy is moving toward war, whether we're ready or not. We have to make our choice now. What do you recommend? Torres asked. Chun had spent sleepless nights thinking about it. We tell a new truth. Not the whole truth, but a true story that serves the same purpose as the old lie. She activated the conference room's main display and brought up her plan. We announced that the Imperial fleet completed its mission and discovered a threat to who? The entire galaxy. We present evidence of the civilizations that have fallen, but we don't mention the architects as living beings. We make it seem like we found ancient ruins and warning messages. And humanity's role? Wright asked. We position ourselves as messengers, not leaders. We're the ones who found the information, but we need everyone's help to understand it and prepare for it. We invite the other species to join us in building defenses, not to follow us. Captain Okafor nodded slowly. It could work. It gives everyone a reason to cooperate without making them feel subordinate to humanity. But it's still a lie, Chief. Park pointed out. Just a different one. Chun looked around the room at her crew. These people had risked everything to find the truth, and now she was asking them to hell. The emergency session of the Galactic Council took place on Harmony Station, a neutral platform built at the intersection of 5 major trade routes. Chun had never seen so many different species in one place. Zelkari with their crystal armor, Skarn warriors covered in ritual scars, peaceful Andrashi floating in their environmental suits, and dozens of others she barely recognized. She stood at the central podium, looking out at representatives who had been ready to go to war with each other just weeks ago. Now they sat in tense silence, waiting to hear what humanity had to say. Honored delegates, Chun began, I stand before you today not as a human leader, but as a messenger. What I am about to share with you will change how we all see our place in the galaxy. She activated the holographic display system. The first Image showed the debris field where they had found the Imperial fleet. 3 months ago, we located the final resting place of Emperor Valerius and his expedition. What we found there challenges everything we thought we knew about our galaxy's history. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Zelkari delegate leaned forward, her crystalline features catching the light. "Are you finally admitting that your Imperial fleet was destroyed?" Sean nodded. "The Imperial fleet fought their last battle 300 years ago, but they died defending something far more important than human territory. They died protecting all of us." The next image showed the Architect Station, its massive structure dwarfing the human ships around it. They found ruins left by a civilization called the Architects, beings who had watched over our galaxy for millions of years, testing younger species and guiding their development. The Skarn delegate stood up, his voice booming across the chamber. "More human lies? You expect us to believe that ancient gods chose your species as special?" "No," Sean said calmly. "I expect you to look at the evidence." She activated a series of recordings. The assembled delegates watched in silence as the history of extinct civilizations played out before them. The proud Korvek Empire, reduced to scattered ruins because they could not work together. The Melari Federation, destroyed by internal conflicts just as they reached technological maturity. Dozens of species that had reached for the stars and fallen short. The Architects didn't choose humanity, Sean continued. They tested us, just as they tested everyone else. Most species failed because they could not unite when it mattered most. We passed because we learned to fight together instead of alone. Dr. Wright stepped forward to present the technical evidence. Samples of Architect technology that violated known laws of physics. Energy readings that showed impossible power outputs. Material analyses that revealed construction techniques beyond current understanding. The chamber erupted in discussion. Scientists from different species crowded around the evidence displays, arguing and analyzing. Politicians huddled in urgent conferences. Military officers studied the tactical implications. Chun waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "There's more," she said. The Imperial fleet found records indicating that the Architects weren't the only ancient power in our galaxy. There are others, entities that see younger species as threats to be eliminated rather than potential allies. The next display showed star charts mapping the advance of something the Architects had called the Consuming Dark, a force that had been steadily destroying civilizations in distant parts of the galaxy, moving slowly but inevitably toward their region of space. According to the records we found, this threat will reach our borders within 800 years. The Architects held it back for as long as they could, but they grew tired of the responsibility. They left our galaxy to find younger species, capable of defending themselves. The silence in the chamber was complete now. Chun could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. The beginning of understanding. "We cannot face this threat as separate species," she continued. "The records are clear. Every civilization that tried to fight alone was destroyed. Only by working together, sharing our knowledge and resources, can we hope to survive." The Andrashi delegate spoke first, her voice carrying the musical tones of her species. "You ask us to trust you based on ruins and ancient warnings. How do we know this isn't another human deception?" Chun had expected this question. "Because we're not asking you to follow us. We're asking you to join us." She activated the final part of her presentation. It showed plans for something that had never existed before, a truly integrated galactic fleet. Ships designed using the best technology from every species. Crews drawn from all the major civilizations. Command structures that rotated between different species based on expertise rather than politics. "We propose the creation of the Galactic Defense Initiative," Sean announced. "Not under human leadership, but under shared leadership. Every species contributes according to their strengths. Everyone has a voice in the decisions that affect us all. The Zelkari delegate's crystal features seemed to brighten. You would share command with former enemies? We would share command with former strangers, Chun corrected. The human concept of enemy is what the architects found most interesting about us. We don't see permanent enemies, only temporary conflicts that can be resolved. Captain Okafor stepped forward for the four. First time. At over 300 years old, she commanded instant respect from everyone in the chamber. I was there when the Imperial fleet met the architects, she said. I heard their final message to our galaxy. They said that if we could prove we had learned to work together, they would return to help us face what's coming. But if we remained divided, we would face the darkness alone. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from species that had been enemies for generations. The choice is ours. We can continue the old patterns of conflict and distrust, or we can become something new, something worthy of survival. The debate that followed lasted for 3 days. Species that had barely spoken to each other in decades argued, negotiated, and slowly began to find common ground. The breakthrough came when the Skarn delegate, known for his species warrior culture, made an unexpected statement. The Skarn understand strength, he said. But true strength is not about conquering others. It is about protecting what matters. If this threat is real, then what matters is the survival of all thinking beings. One by one, the other delegates began to agree, not because they trusted humanity, but because the evidence was overwhelming and the alternative was extinction. The final vote was unanimous. The Galactic Defense Initiative would be established within 1 year with headquarters, rotating between different species' home systems. The first joint research stations would be built within 6 months. Most importantly, the old lies and deceptions would be replaced with truth and cooperation. Chun stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station as the delegates prepared to return to their home worlds. The stars looked the same as they always had, but she knew the galaxy had changed forever. Captain Okafor joined her at the window. Do you think it will work? The older woman asked. I don't know, Sean admitted. But for the first time in 300 years, I have hope. 6 months later, Chun stood on the bridge of the first ship of the new galactic fleet. The GDS Unity was unlike anything that had ever been built. Its hull incorporated Zelkari crystal technology for defense. Its engines used Andrashi gravitic manipulation for faster-than-light travel. Its weapon systems combined human precision with Skarn power. Its crew included representatives from 15 different species, all working together toward a common goal. As the ship prepared for its maiden voyage, Chun received a message that made her smile. It was from the Architect Station, where a permanent research facility had been established. Dr. Wright reported that they had found something new in the ancient records. The architects had left a final message, hidden so deeply in their data that it had taken months to decode. It was simple, but it changed everything. To the species that reads this message, you have passed the first test. You have learned to work together despite your differences. Now the real work begins. We will return when you are ready for the next challenge. Do not disappoint us. Shun looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, ancient beings were watching. The lie that had held the galaxy together was gone, replaced by a truth that might save it. The Imperial fleet had never reached its destination because its real destination had been the future. A future where the galaxy stood united against the darkness, not because they were forced to, but because they chose to. As the Unity jumped to hyperspace, beginning humanity's role as partners rather than conquerors, Shun thought about Emperor Valerius and his sacrifice. He had given up his empire to give the galaxy something more valuable, a chance. Now it was up to all of them to prove they were worthy of it. The stars were vast and dangerous, full of threats that could destroy entire civilizations. But for the first time in the galaxy's history, they would not face those threats alone. The new fleet was ready. The galaxy was united. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, the architects were watching with approval. The real journey was just beginning.